Britt! Hey, Britt! Thanks. I appreciate this, honestly.
Absolutely. What's up?
I joined a Bible study and we started a devotional, and right out of the gate I get this verse to study, Mark 8:35, for whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. Doesn't make any sense. I mean, I joined a Bible study to try to be less confused, and now I'm just getting more confused. Please help me.
Oh, John, I'm sorry for your minor crisis. You've bumped into one of those things that we call an oxymoron. You know, like civil war, loud silence, pretty ugly. When two words or ideas that contradict one another are put together, we call that an oxymoron. So for example, when I asked you about your minor crisis, that was an oxymoron too.
What do you mean?
Well, by definition, a crisis can't be minor, right?
Okay, that makes sense. Minor crisis, I get it. Okay, kind of like jumbo shrimp.
Exactly. Sometimes people purposely combine opposing words or phrases that can't fit together to emphasize a point. And Jesus many times in the Bible uses such riddles to challenge us to look beyond the surface, to make us think. These riddles don't make sense at first glance. In fact, Jesus knew that his riddles would be misunderstood. In 1 Corinthians 3:19, Paul doubled down on this idea and wrote, "For the wisdom of this world is foolishness."
Okay, interesting. I see what you did there.
Tell you what, John, let's not wait. Let's take this head on. So what John is struggling with, many struggle with, which brings us to this week's myth. Sometimes the Bible contradicts itself. In this episode, we're going to unpack some of the most famous oxymorons in the Bible and discover for ourselves if the words truly do contradict themselves. I delight in weaknesses. In 2 Corinthians 12:10, Paul writes, "That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses." How does that make sense? Anyone from this planet knows that weaknesses are a bad thing in every area of life. No one wants weaknesses, and we would certainly never delight in our weaknesses. But if we stretch our minds and thoroughly read the entire verse in context, we see that Paul quotes Jesus, who said, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." You see, it's through our own weaknesses that God's glory is revealed. If young David was 7 foot 9 inches tall, 390 pounds, his run-in with Goliath wouldn't have had the same impact. In Matthew chapter 8, Jesus heals a man of leprosy. To call leprosy a weakness would be the understatement of the year. But it was through this man's disease, his weakness, that God's glory could be shown to the priest. If you allow God to use you, to flow through you, your weakness will be made strong to help you fulfill His purpose and to be a testimony. We receive by giving. Here's what Jesus said in Luke chapter 6, verse 38. "Give and you will receive." This appears to be a blunt contradiction, or is it something else? Looking deeper into this chapter, we can see that the mystery is answered within itself. Your gift will return to you in full, pressed down, shaken together to make room for more, running over and poured into your lap. The amount you give will determine the amount you get back. God watches what you do, and He will give to the one who gives. That makes us receivers through giving. So, does the Bible contradict itself? This myth is busted. So John, now that we've had a chance to dive into these contradictions, how about we take another look at what was originally puzzling you?
All right, so it was Mark 8:35. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake in the Gospels will save it.
Revisiting this with a new understanding of the Bible's unique wordage, do you see it differently? Can it make sense?
When Jesus says to lose our life, he's referring to having to deny oneself. So if we're trying to save or hold on to our old ways, then we would lose the life of fulfillment that God has set out for us.
Exactly. By using phrases that seem absurd, God is enticing us to dive deep in His Word, deep in the truth. The Bible is not a book whose surface can be scratched. It must be soaked in. And with the help of prayer, we're able to discern and grasp God's beautiful poetics.
Well, Brittany, I guess you've given me no choice but to thank you for your wonderful myth-busting insights. They're awfully good.
Yes, they're tiny miracles.
She's made me a wise fool.
Haha.